Another company doesn't watch my videos. So another brand reached out to me, but this time I was kind of excited because it's a brand that at least that I use all the time now. So Meeden reached out to me. If you've ever been on Amazon, you've seen Meeden art products, that's for sure. They're all over the place, but definitely on Amazon, there they are. I've used Meeden products ever since I first got back into art back in maybe 2015-ish. I don't remember the exact time, but you know what I mean. And they said, hey, would you like to try some products? Now, let me say, I've already tried some products. This tin is a Meeden tin. I think the new ones say Meeden on them, but I got this so long ago, it didn't say Meeden on it. But it's a Meeden tin, and it didn't come. I had to buy separately the Meeden full pans. I enjoy full pans. I hate half pans. I don't want to see half pans. But the full pans I like, and all the ones that I have in all my watercolor, they're all Meeden full pans. Those are the ones that I bought. I have 3 of their porcelain palettes, and I checked, make sure that on my Amazon, these are actually theirs. I know they are. So this is the Meeden palette that I've used before. I put rubber on the bottom because I don't want it to scratch my desk, and it stays put a little better. It doesn't wobble so much. But these little things here, this is great for mixing and putting little things down and use it in your studio especially. It's good. It does clang. You hear that? Yeah, that's a little irritating, but it's okay. It's not gonna clang if you just sit it there and leave it. See, look, it's not clanging now because I'm not moving it. I've used some of their other ones too. This is one that I've used. Again, I put rubber on the bottom of them, but I use this one here and I use this one here. I don't use this one the way it's supposed to be. Instead of putting it the right way, I put rubber on it and then I use the other side because I like the long wells. I use this one on almost every drawing that you see here, almost every painting. Anytime you see something off to the side, this is the palette that I use. I also have the leak-proof palette, but I've never used it. I always envisioned one day I'm going to have a watercolor that is only the watercolor that I like, and I'm going to fill these up. The thing is, I think that I don't know if I could fill this up with all the different colors and then actually use all the colors. I usually pick a very limited palette and use a very limited palette. So, but I'm eventually going to put something in here. I don't know how many. I think there's like 33 in here. Yeah, there's 33 in here, and it has a little separate thing here that pops out, and you can. I would probably put a swatch out of colors in one and then use the other to mix. But these are things I've had for a very long time. I thought those drawers were. I thought these were the Meeden drawers. And I think they could be because I got them years and years. I probably got them in maybe 2017 or so. And I put down, I think I put down the Meeden brand on my list. But I don't know if that's what the people bought. Those were gifts, so I have no idea. But anyway, it could be. They have something similar than that. And so they said, hey, you want to try something? Anything you want, we'll send it to you. Just go ahead and ask us for it. We'll be happy to help you out. And I should have said, yeah, one of those studio easels, those giant ones, that's what I want. Or those little art carts that are like $500. Yeah, let me try one of those. I didn't do that because what I said was, really, what's the most important art material for me? And everybody knows that's paper. I love paper. So they sent me paper. They said, well, what kind of paper do you want? I said, I want this one, the one with the colorful front, instead of just the solid one that says Academy. I don't even know if that's a different kind of paper or not. They're all 100% cotton, so I have no idea. But I said, yeah, I want to try this paper. I'd like to try the cold press and the hot press and the rough press and compare them like I've done with other ones. And that's fine. They said, yeah, no problem. They sent them right out to me. Had them in no time. It was a very quick transaction. I really appreciate that. And so I'm not being paid for this video, but I did tell them I would review the paper if they sent it to me. And I love paper, so I'd be happy to do that and share my thoughts and opinions with you. Now, I don't understand that. Cold press. That's green paper. Oh, it's like a cover. It's just a cover, everybody. Don't panic. It's just a cover. I can throw that away. It's pretty bright white. I was going to say, is it cream, like that natural color or not? The texture looks very interesting. It doesn't look like... Well, we're going to go through all that when I do the drawing. We're going to go through all the texture stuff. So anyway, I'm going to really test these. And I'll let you know, it's like some of the paper, like that Leather Village paper, which I loved, by the way, it's just that you have to use it a certain way. You can't put down the ink and then put the watercolor, because the watercolor bleeds and the ink doesn't. So it looks like it bleeds outside the line. So you have to use that paper. You have to put down the watercolor first and then draw the outline of the watercolor with the pen and put in your marks that way. And I let you know that's how you have to use it. If you use it like that, it's great paper. Absolutely wonderful. But you have to use it a certain way. I will let you know if this is a standard paper that you could use any other way, like you do with an Arches or a Legion or something like that, or if it's something special, you have to use it a certain way. Now, let me just bring this up though. There are several artist grade papers that you just have to work differently. Some papers will hold on to the color, and so you can glaze over the top and the underneath doesn't move at all. But some artists don't like that because they want to lift the paint. So what they want to do is put down the color and then lift out highlights. Well, you have to know what properties your paper has. So I'm going to try and figure these out, and I'll let you know a little bit about it. I'm also going to use some masking fluid on some of these. I think that you have to test whether I'm going to put tape on them and see if the tape rips off the paper, see how well it holds up. I'm going to put many, many layers on some of them and do some other stuff on other ones. I'll try and give it a good feel for what they do compared to how I use my other paper, and I'll share that with you. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I just want to get out of the way is that I have a Band-Aid on my hand, and it's an ugly Band-Aid. I don't know why I didn't have one of the ones that actually look like normal skin or anything else. It's like a gold color. Nobody has gold skin. So anyway, it was kind of weird. By the end of the video, I've already pulled this thing off and it's done. Don't worry about it. Well, don't worry about it. Anyway, so let's get to the paper first. One of the things that I started with the hot press. So the first thing I'm using here, I'm sorry. No, I did not. I started with the rough press paper. That was the most important one to me because that's the one that I love to use. I love to use rough paper, and I wanted to see if you could lift a little bit. I wanted to see if you could put pen down, which is wonderful. There's a lot of texture on it, but it's not as much as I would normally think. It's actually pretty good. The texture is rough. It's rougher than the cold press, but it's not really rough. A lot of people don't like really rough paper. This is pretty rough. It works well, but it's like a rougher cold press, if that makes any sense. So you see the texture, you see the texture of the paper kind of comes through the paint, which I really like. And yes, there were some areas where I had put some paint down. Then I go to put a little bit more paint down, and it was easy to blend the paint that I had already put down with the paint that was already down on the paper that started to dry a little bit. So I will say that, yeah, it's pretty good for blending. Now, I just want to preface this by saying this. Most of the colors that I use are either staining or semi-staining. Very rarely do I use non-staining paints. So you have to just take that into consideration as well. They blended well, they reactivated, I was able to blend them. If you're someone who likes to put the color down and have it stay down while you do a lot of glazing over it, I wouldn't recommend it. I think it does lift unless you use a very staining pigment, and then when you put that paint down it will stay put. But for the most part, you have to use the paper the way it needs to be used, and this is the way that I would use any other paper. It's the way that I would use an Arches, it's the way that I would use a Legion, or not a Fluid. Fluid's different. Fluid paper is the one that, the hot press, not so much the cold press, but definitely the hot press paper on the Fluid, it holds on to the paint more than normal. So you do a lot of glazing with the Fluid hot press. It's different than this one. And then when I moved over to the cold press, there's definitely difference, but it's still a very nice cold press paper. It's what most people consider a cold press paper. The texture on it is nice. I don't know how to explain it, but it's uneven. It's an uneven texture, so you can tell it's not like machined. It's more pressed or something. I forget how they mold made instead of machined out or something, because it has a very random texture to it, and I enjoy it. I don't like the ones that have the machined texture. At least to me, to my eye, I see a lot of randomness in the pattern on the paper, and I like that. That's something that I enjoy. The cold press worked the exact same way as the rough press. I think it was very usable, very easy to use. This is, I'll tell you what, this here took, it was like 10 hours of video that I had to narrow down. So whatever time this video runs till, yeah, it was 10 hours when I was editing it. It took a long, there's 4 drawings. I had to do 4 paintings because when I got to the hot press, I said, you know, I want to use masking fluid, and I want to see if the masking fluid really will. Hot press paper is very delicate, and usually, I will say, of all the hot press paper I've ever used, when I put masking fluid down, it comes up sometimes. So not all the time, but sometimes it'll roll up a little bit. Like if you use the Etch-a-Sketch book or something like that, some of that paper comes up with the masking fluid. And I used 2 different masking fluids on this. I used the Piobo, or you know, the blue one. I used that one. And then I used the Schmincke masking fluid, which is not supposed to stick to anything, and I've never seen it stick to anything. So I used them both. And then but I had to let that dry, and I wanted to really make sure I let it dry, that I wasn't going to tear up the paper. So I let it dry. I did put that on, and then I went to the next one. I went to the next page and did another full hot press watercolor painting to see the flow. Because a lot of times on the hot press paper, yes, it flows, but it leaves really hard edges or really hard lines when you do that. And I wanted to see if it did that. It actually spread very evenly. It dispersed wonderfully. I will say this. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's shilling for the company. Listen, I promise you I would tell you, I would definitely call out if something was wrong here. But as far as hot press papers go, this has been my favorite hot press paper that I've ever used. Not only does it handle the masking fluid extremely well, nothing stuck at all. When I peeled that, and I used my finger, I didn't use the delicate gum eraser, and I dug into it with my finger and I started pulling it all off. Not one tear, no uneven paint, no uneven lines. Wonderful. It was absolutely great. And then the tape, I used regular blue tape on that because I know a lot of the hot press paper is very delicate. You go to peel the tape up and it tears up all the soft fiber. There is no soft fiber on this hot press paper. For once, it's a hot press paper that is actually pressed well. It's not soft, it's not fuzzy. It'll handle drawing on it very well. It handles pulling the tape up. It doesn't tear off. No tape residue on the back. And then I went and tested it, and you'll see at the end, at the very end, I put a little piece of the blue tape, the painter's tape, on the cold press paper, and then I let it sit overnight. I let it sit for a while, and then I pulled it off, and it didn't come off. No paper at all came off on any of the tape, and I've never had that happen on any watercolor paper I've ever used. Anytime I use that blue tape, it always tears a little bit, and everyone's like, oh yeah, you got to stick it to yourself and like your pants or something and get some fuzzies on the back before you put it on, or heat it up with a hairdryer before you pull it off, or this, this washi tape stuff. That stuff doesn't really stick to anything. It was falling off while I was using it. But anyway, it's worked very well. The hot press paper, like I said, my favorite hot press paper that I've ever used. As far as the other two, they are 100% professional quality paper. They feel like professional quality paper. There's no buckling. There's a little bit of warping like every other paper. It warps just a little bit because you're wetting one side, the fibers are spreading out, and you're not wetting the other side. So it warps because the other side is staying tight with the fiber. The top is getting loose on the fiber. So it's going to warp a little bit. Every paper I've ever seen does that. It's not a big deal. You can lay them flat and eventually get them back to flat. It's not a big deal. But I will tell you, and I'm going through these now and looking at them, and I'm thinking, it was a joy to use. I'm going to use the crap out of this paper. And 20 sheets in a pad, that's ridiculous. So you get 20 sheets in each of these pads. Instead of 12 or 10, there's 20 in there. That's a lot of painting. And for the price, they're extremely cost effective. You go look at it. I've got links. I know I do. Go look at it. And there's a discount, I think. There's a discount, Pete 10 or something like that. It'll be down below. But you put that in when you go to buy it, and you get like 10% off. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking when you go to the site that you also see a little thing up on top that says you get 10% off your first order anyway. But the Pete 10 gives you 10% off every order, I think. I have no idea. But at least gives you 10% off, I know that. Anyway, it's great paper, highly recommended. I don't highly recommend a lot of things very often. The paper was great to use, and that's, like I said before, the number one most important thing for me is the paper. You can have crappy paper and the best paints and the best brushes, and your painting will come out like garbage. You need the good paper. You can have good paper and crappy paints and crappy brushes and get a decent result. I know it's a little bit better when you have good paint and you have good brushes, but the paper makes the most of the difference. In the future, you're going to see me use this paper a lot. I'm going to use these up pretty well, so I'm going to test them with other things too. The hot press paper I still want to test with colored pencil and see how that comes out. I want to try it with the water soluble pencils like the Inktense and the Graphitint pencils, and maybe some of the water soluble graphite pencils, and try some of those. But I definitely want to see how that comes out. But from what I can tell, it's not overly textured. I know a lot of you use hot press paper. That's why I'm focusing on that, because it's very hard to find a good hot press paper. You can find good cold press papers just about everywhere. There's almost every company that's a professional brand has some good cold press papers, but they don't all have good hot press papers. It was very easy to use. The texture on it is good. It's like a very, very fine grain, so you should be able to use some pencil on there, wet it down. Of course, when you do that, you have to let it dry completely. Don't go back over a wet paper with more pencil and go over it. You'll destroy that paper. But just let it dry and then do the second layer and see how that works. But I'm just saying, I was able to I did on the hot press, I put layer after layer after layer. You'll see me do that. I did that with some of the other stuff too, but mostly on that one, because that one I wanted to really test. Like I said, hard to find that good hot press paper. This is one of my favorites. Anytime I get a hot press paper from now on, I'm probably going to be getting this one. And that's wonderful, but I wanted to give you something that I knew I could review, and I could give you my 100% honest opinion of something that I love to use, and that's paper. So we come to the part of the video where I have to start complaining a little bit about other things. So have you ever met those people that nothing is ever good enough for them? You could have just seen randomly, no one asked you, you just saw someone was hungry, they wanted a sandwich, so you went to your local shop. You had a sandwich made especially for them, just what they wanted. You go and you jump in an Uber or a taxi or whatever. You go to the airport, you fly to wherever they are, you rent a car, you drive to their house, and then you give them the sandwich. And they have something like, oh, you didn't put pickles on it? It's just, nothing's ever good enough. It doesn't matter how much you go out of your way or what happens. They have to complain about whatever it is. It's not like, oh, you know what, someone just went out of their way for me to make me feel special, to take care of something for me, and that should be good. But no, sometimes that doesn't happen. There's always someone who will complain no matter what. It doesn't matter if what's going on in their life. It's always, oh, how come it's not better for my life? And It's just, they look at other people and they're just, oh, that person's doing well. Instead of saying, good for you, I'm glad you're doing well, I'm so happy for you, whatever they just, oh no, how come I'm not doing well? And they just, you know who I'm talking about. There are people that do that. You know those people in your life. You have those people. I know you're not those people in your life because you wouldn't hang around here very long if you were. But I'm just saying that there's those people in your life, and I just cannot stand it. I don't understand the mentality. Help me understand people that do stuff like this. I want you to go down in the comments below and let me know, why do you think people do that? You may not be right. There could be 100 different reasons why people do that, but at least give me your take on it. Why do you think people are that way, and they're that kind of angry, and their life is just miserable all the time, and they're always complaining? Even this just happened not that long ago. I was talking to someone who said they had 100 cars. They bought 100 cars in their lifetime. They're young. They're only like 40 years old. 100 cars, like 4 a year sometimes. And they paid, they actually bought them. 50 of them were brand new. And then they're talking about, oh, I hope that when I come back in my next life, I'm a millionaire or something, I'm rich. Well, you have no idea. Do you know how many people have never been able to buy a new car? Like, some people have never been able to buy a car that's more than like a couple $1,000s and dump a bunch of money into it slowly because they can't get something good. They can't get something new. And here you are complaining that you've bought 100 cars, 50 of them were brand new, and you want more money. That's what you want. So it baffles me. Certain people, certain personalities, they just bug me. How about the kind of person who, no matter who they're around, they need to complain about everybody else and just point out something bad, like, oh, look at the way that person walks, and look at the way that person looks, and look at the way that person talks, and like, that person has a twitch. You see that twitch? I can't stand that twitch. It drives me insane. Like, why do you have to be that person that constantly complains about everybody else? Can't you just say, look, you know what? Everybody's different. I'm sure there's plenty of things about everyone that someone can complain about. I know you can complain about me. I've got some of the worst quirks I've ever seen. If you knew anything about my life, if you've ever seen me and dealt with me for more than 5 seconds, you know that there are some things you can definitely complain about with me. I am not delusional about that, but I try not to do that to other people because they're just who they are because of where they are in their life. That's just who they are. You're going to sit there complaining about everybody. It's not good. It shouldn't happen. That person works hard. How about that? That person works harder than anyone that I know. They'll do anything you ask them to do for the, like, I need you to go do this, or I need you to go do that. And they just instantly, without question, they're just like, yeah, let's just go do it. And they just do it for you, or they just take care of something that needs to be taken care of. And then you're going to sit there and, oh, look at how they're doing that. Look at it. You got to really, figure out what your priorities are in life, that you have to complain about everybody else all the time. I cannot stand that. Absolutely. That's the kind of person I try and stay far away from. It's very hard to meet friends and people that don't do those kinds of things. It's just very annoying to me. And now's where you should be going down in the comments to call me out, because I just told you about people that complain about other people, that annoys me, that I can't understand those people. And here I am complaining about all those people. So you got to go down there, call me hypocrite. I get it. I understand. I see it. Okay, so now I have some questions for you. How about if you could send me some ideas of some videos you would like to see? A lot of people like the swatching ones, and a lot of people have seen some of the swatching stuff and said, hey, can you go through your whole swatching book with us? Just the ones that you swatched out already. Yeah, okay, I can do that, but I don't want to bore the crap out of everybody. So just let me know what kind of things you want to see me do. Do you want to see me just do more of this kind of stuff and random stuff and talk about random things? Do you want to see me review some more products, or what kind of products would you like to see? I just would like to know from you. What are you interested in looking at? I don't understand. There was one video that I did my palette. The one that I redid my palette, that video took off like 3,500 views the first week. It was 4,500 views in the first week. 4,500 views in the first week. The next week I do art acrylic markers and it was like 300 the first week. I don't understand how that happens. I think I have the same audience all the time, but sometimes people just look at stuff and sometimes they don't. I get it. I understand that. But I would like to entertain you and figure out what do you want to see, because it's pointless for me to just do things that nobody wants to see. I don't like doing that. Even though sometimes I do anyway, because I just do some stuff that I really want to do and I want to talk about. So sometimes I do that. But I would still like to know, what do you like to see? I will say this. I've been enjoying, I haven't done it on purpose very much, but it happens all the time. The first two paintings here, no, the first one painting, that creature that I did, it looks like this thing that's yelling out, and there's like I guess like a bird thing that's kind of yelling, and it's got all these weird planets around it. I enjoy doing these characters all the time, and I have a couple more that I drew that I recorded, but I didn't do the full video yet. I don't have it set up yet, but at least I recorded me drawing the thing. I don't know what the video is going to be about, but we'll see. But I enjoy these little characters that I come up with and just say, yeah, this is a weird little animal that no one's ever seen before. If you like those kind of videos, let me know, because I love doing those videos. I definitely like creating those little things. And one of the ideas that I have is I want to create a video where it's my favorite art supplies that I've never used. Or no, not that I've never used, that I just don't use very often, that I never use. So my favorite art supplies I never use, and just go through, because there are very many art supplies that I really love to create with, but I don't ever use them because of certain reasons. And I'd like to get into those reasons of why I don't use them, because some people might be able to say, hey, if you do this, you don't have to worry about that. And then I can say, okay, now I can use those supplies again. I used to use some supplies and I realized those flaws and things that really kind of bother me. I figured, no, I can go ahead and do that. I can figure that out. I'll lay it out in front of you, and you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. That's about how this always goes anyway, so that'll be normal for me. Okay, so I know that this was a very quick video compared to the number of drawings, and I was probably going really fast. I don't hope that it was at least long enough for you to see what I was doing with the paper. That was really the whole point of this video, was just to show you what the paper is and see how it is. And like I said, I do highly recommend the paper. It worked very well, very professional, and especially if you are looking for a good hot press watercolor paper, I highly recommend the hot press version of this. It worked beautifully, and it's everything that I would like to use if I did like a line and wash, like a landscape line and wash or something like that. That's what I would do. I would probably use this. And if you didn't like the things that I did, by the way, I'm not getting paid for this. I don't get paid for these videos. It's just, I'm just using the products they sent to me. They did send them to me. I told you that at the beginning. They're not giving me any money for it. They said, here, you want to try this? And I said, yeah, I want to try it, because paper is important to me. I've said that 100 times. Let me say it one more time. Paper is important to me, and I just wanted you to see what I think of the paper. That's all. I always go, whenever I look for something new, I look to YouTube and I say, what are these people saying about it? Now, I know there are a lot of people that say, oh, well, the YouTubers, they're just paid advertisers. They're just going to tell you that everything's wonderful. But you know me better than that. I've complained about plenty of products before and had no problem doing it. When I tell you something's good, it's because I really think it's good. And if I tell you that it sucks, it's because I really think it sucks. And a lot of times I do notice that when I go on YouTube and I check out some artists and I see what they say about it, I'm like, oh, okay, it looks pretty good. And then I get it and I just, what are they thinking? That's not good at all. I understand some people do that, but most artists on YouTube are really in it more for the people. I don't mean these giant channels that have millions of subscribers and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about most artists, YouTubers that are around, some of the bigger people, but not real big, not huge. Just some of the people, and you can tell when someone's being honest and down to earth and when they're just feeding you a load of crap. I hope you can tell that. If you can, I'm very sorry, because you probably wasted a lot of money on things that other people say are good and not. But a lot of them just say, yes, this is my honest opinion. Some people really think something is great that sucks for me, but it's just because of how I use it or how I do things. But for the way they do it, it works great. So I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I don't ever want to say something negative about someone else that, oh, they're just doing this because of this. I don't like to do that ever. What I'm saying is you have to check things out for yourself. No matter what, it doesn't matter if I say this is the greatest thing in the world. You're always going to have to go try it for yourself and make sure that the way that I'm using it is the way that you use it to work well. That's all. So it's very important that you check it out yourself. Sometimes you end up wasting money. I get it. Don't ever throw it away. Don't ever waste it like that. Give it to someone else and say, look, this doesn't work for me here. Maybe it'll work for you, and see if they will like it. And especially if someone doesn't have the money to buy it themselves, you can give it to them and say, here, just check it out. See if it works for you. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you think I'm a shill anyway and I'm just dishing out whatever I can for these companies because you still think that I'm getting money for some reason even though I'm not, but that's okay. Sometimes people want to think whatever they want to think. Well, if that's the case, you can blame these people popping up on the screen because they actually send me money to make these videos. So you can go blame them. I'm sure they don't mind it. Matter of fact, I don't think they mind it at all because they know that if you're complaining about the stuff that I'm putting up here, then you're probably not their kind of person anyway because they love me. So thumb up the video. If you're going to at least give one of these a try and just check it out, just take a look and see, hey, maybe I'm going to like this paper. It's a very affordable paper. So that's a wonderful thing too. It's nice to have something very high quality that's very affordable. It works for everybody that way. So like I said, I highly recommend it. Hope you check it out, and I will see you in... No, I'm not going to just shut this video off. You got to stay for this part. If you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.